The Valari were a peaceful people. They had silver skin that glowed softly in the light. Their eyes were large and gentle, filled with colors that shifted like water. They were tall and thin, and they moved with grace. For thousands of years, they had lived without war. They were healers, artists, and teachers. They did not know how to fight. They did not want to know. Queen Rose ruled the Valari Empire from her beautiful palace on Valari Prime. The palace was made of crystal that sang when the wind touched it. Gardens filled with flowers from 100 worlds surrounded it. It was a place of peace and beauty. But today, the palace was filled with tears. Queen Rose sat on a throne, but she did not look like a queen. Her silver face was wet with tears. Her hands shook as she held a small picture. The picture showed a little girl with bright eyes and a sweet smile. The girl was Princess Lily, and she was only 8 years old. 3 days ago, pirates had taken her. The attack had happened during a diplomatic mission. Queen Rose had sent her daughter with a group of ambassadors to meet with another peaceful species. It was supposed to be safe. There were guards. There were protocols. But none of that mattered when the Black Nova pirates came. The pirates were led by a cruel man named Victor Kane. He was human, but he had no honor. He had left his own kind behind long ago to become a criminal. His crew was made of the worst beings from every corner of the galaxy. They killed without mercy. They took what they wanted, and what Victor Kane wanted was the sacred healing crystals of the Valari. These crystals were special. They could heal any wound. They could cure any sickness. The Valari used them to help others, never for profit or power. But in the wrong hands, they could be sold for enough money to buy entire planets. Victor Kane sent a message to Queen Rose. In the message, he showed Princess Lily sitting in a dark cell. The little girl was scared, but she was trying to be brave. She did not cry in front of her captors. "Give me the crystals," Victor Kane said in the message. His voice was cold and empty. "All of them. Or I will sell your daughter to the slave markets of the Outer Rim. You have 10 days. Queen Rose had watched that message 100 times. Each time, her heart broke again. The Valari had no army. They had no warriors. For generations, they had believed that peace was always the answer. They had trusted in the goodness of the universe. Now, that belief seemed foolish and naive. Queen Rose sent messages to every species she knew. She begged for help. She offered rewards. She promised alliances and trade agreements. But everyone refused. "The pirates are too dangerous," they said. "The mission is impossible," they said. "We are sorry for your loss." They spoke as if Lily was already dead. Tara was a young handmaiden who had been with Princess Lily during the attack. She had escaped by hiding in a storage container. For 2 days, she drifted in space before a passing ship found her. When she finally reached Valari Prime, she went straight to the Queen. "Your Majesty," Tara said, kneeling before the throne. "I know you have asked everyone for help. I know they have all refused. But there is one species you have not tried." Queen Rose looked at her with tired eyes. "Who?" "The humans." The court whispered at this. Humans were a young species. They had only been traveling among the stars for a few hundred years. They were not advanced. They were not powerful. Many species looked down on them as primitive and strange. But Tara had heard stories. "The humans are different," Tara said. "They do not think like other species. They do things that make no sense. They fight battles they cannot win. They die for strangers. They never give up even when there is no hope. Why would they help us?" Queen Rose asked. "We have nothing they want." "I have heard of one human," Tara continued. "His name is Jake Miller. He was a soldier on Earth, their home world. Now he works alone, taking jobs that no one else will take. They say he once walked into a fortress filled with 1,000 enemies and walked out with 50 prisoners on his back. They say he cannot be killed. Stories, one of the advisors said. Fairy tales about a primitive species. But Queen Rose was desperate. She had tried everything else. What was one more attempt? Send a message to this Jake Miller, she commanded. Offer him whatever he wants. Gold, technology, a place in our empire, anything. The message was sent across the stars to the outer rim, where humans lived on rough and dangerous worlds. It traveled through relay stations and communication networks until it reached a small space station. Orbiting a dusty planet, Jake Miller was sitting in a bar when his communicator buzzed. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face marked by old scars. His eyes were dark and serious. He looked tired, like a man who had seen too much of the universe's cruelty. He opened the message and saw a holographic image of Queen Rose appear above his table. She was weeping. In her hands, she held a picture of her daughter. Please, the Queen said in the recording. My daughter has been taken. She's only 8 years old. She is scared and alone. I have asked everyone for help, and everyone has refused. You are my last hope. I will give you anything, wealth, power, a home in my empire. Just please bring my daughter back to me. The message ended. Jake sat in silence for a long moment. Around him, the bar was noisy with alien voices and strange music. But he heard none of it. He thought about his own family back on Earth. He thought about his little sister, Emma. She had been taken by pirates too, many years ago. He had been too young and too weak to save her. By the time he became a soldier, it was too late. He never found her. That failure haunted him every day of his life. Jake looked at the picture of Princess Lily. She had the same look in her eyes that Emma had. Hope mixed with fear. Trust that someone would come for her. He stood up and walked to the communication terminal in the corner of the bar. He recorded a reply and sent it back across the stars. On Valari Prime, Queen Rose received the message with shaking hands. She played it in front of her entire court. Jake Miller's face appeared in the hologram. His voice was quiet but firm. Your Majesty, he said, keep your money. Keep your rewards. I don't want them. I'm going to find your daughter, and I'm going to bring her home. Not because of what you can give me, but because there's a little girl out there who needs help, and that's enough. The message ended. The court was silent. No one knew what to say. They had never heard of anyone refusing payment for such a dangerous mission. They did not understand why a stranger would risk his life for nothing. But Queen Rose understood. For the first time in 3 days, she felt something other than despair. She felt hope. Somewhere in the darkness of space, a human warrior was coming, and he would not stop until Princess Lily was safe. Jake Miller needed a ship. His old one had been destroyed 6 months ago during a job that went wrong. He had been surviving on small jobs since then, saving money slowly. But now there was no time to wait. He knew exactly who to call. Marcus Webb was an old friend. They had served together in the Earth Marines, fighting in wars that most of the galaxy never heard about. Marcus was a pilot, one of the best Jake had ever seen. He could fly anything with an engine. He was also the only person in the universe that Jake trusted completely. Jake found Marcus on a mining station 3 systems away. Marcus was working as a cargo hauler, moving supplies between colonies. It was boring work, but it paid the bills. When he saw Jake walking toward him across the docking bay, his face broke into a wide grin. Jake Miller, Marcus said, shaking his old friend's hand. I thought you were dead. Not yet, Jake replied. I need your help. What kind of help? Jake told him everything. He told him about Queen Rose and Princess Lily. He told him about Victor Kane and the Black Nova pirates. He told him about the impossible mission ahead. When Jake finished, Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. So you want to attack a pirate army with just the two of us? No backup? No plan? Just walk in and take the girl? That's about right, Jake said. Marcus shook his head. But he was smiling. You're crazy. You know that? I know. And you know I'm coming with you. I was hoping you'd say that. Marcus owned a ship called the Defiance. It was old and ugly. The paint was chipped, and the hull was covered with patches from old repairs. But the engines were strong, and the weapons worked. It was perfect for what they needed. They left the mining station that same day. The hunt had begun. The Black Nova pirates were not easy to find. They moved constantly, never staying in one place for long. They had bases hidden across the galaxy, protected by codes and secrets. Finding them would take time. Jake and Marcus started by visiting the places where criminals gathered. Dark stations in empty systems. Hidden markets where stolen goods were sold. Bars filled with dangerous beings who would kill for the right price. Jake asked questions. Sometimes people answered. Sometimes they tried to kill him instead. It did not matter. Jake kept asking. At a station called Rusthaven, Jake met an information broker named Sally. She was an old woman with mechanical eyes that glowed red in the dim light. She knew things about the criminal world that no one else knew. Victor Kane, she said when Jake mentioned the name. You're looking for Victor Kane? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Maybe, Jake said. Do you know where he is? Sally studied him with her glowing eyes. I know where he was 2 weeks ago. I know where he might be going. But this information is expensive. Jake put a bag of credits on the table. It was everything he had. Sally took the bag and smiled. The Black Nova pirates have been seen near the Drift Nebula. They use an old mining station there as a meeting point. If you hurry, you might catch someone who knows more. Jake and Marcus flew to the Drift Nebula. The nebula was beautiful and deadly, a cloud of gas and dust that stretched for light years. Ships could hide there easily. Ships could also get lost there and never be found. They found the old mining station floating in the edge of the nebula. It was abandoned, or so it seemed. But when they landed, they discovered they were not alone. A group of pirates was waiting for them. They had heard that someone was asking questions about Victor Kane. They had come to make sure those questions stopped. There were 8 of them. They had guns and knives and cruel smiles. They surrounded Jake and Marcus in the station's main hall. You're the humans looking for Kane, the leader said. He was a big alien with 4 arms and teeth like needles. He's paying good money for your heads. Jake looked at the pirates calmly. I just want to know where the girl is. Tell me, and we can all walk away. The pirates laughed. They did not understand. They thought Jake was joking. They thought he was weak. They were wrong. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. Jake and Marcus moved together like they had done 100 times before. They were faster than the pirates expected. They were stronger. They were trained for war in ways that these criminals could not imagine. When it was over, 7 pirates lay on the ground. The leader was still alive, but just barely. Jake knelt beside him. Where's Victor Kane? Jake asked. The pirate looked at Jake with fear in his eyes. He had never seen a human fight before. He had heard stories, but he had not believed them. Now he understood. The Dead Zone, the pirate gasped. He has a base in the Dead Zone. An asteroid. That's where he keeps his prisoners. Thank you, Jake said. They left the pirate there and returned to the Defiance. Marcus looked at the wound on Jake's arm where a knife had cut him. It was deep, but Jake ignored it. You need to get that fixed, Marcus said. Later, Jake replied. We have a location. The Dead Zone was a region of space where no one went. There were no stars there, no planets, nothing but darkness and cold. It was the perfect place to hide. It was also the perfect place to die. as they flew toward the dead zone. Jake thought about Princess Lily. He wondered if she was still alive. He wondered if she was scared. He hoped she knew that someone was coming for her. Across the galaxy, news of the two humans spread. People talked about the strangers who were hunting Victor Kane. Some laughed at the foolishness of it. Two humans against an army of pirates? It was suicide, but some people did not laugh. Some people had seen humans fight before. They knew what humans could do when they had something to fight for. On the pirate base, Victor Kane heard the news too. He sat in his command center, watching reports from his spies. Two humans were coming for him. They had already killed several of his men. They were getting closer. Kane was not worried. He had hundreds of fighters. He had weapons. He had defenses. What could two humans do against all of that? He walked to the cell where Princess Lily was kept. The little girl sat in the corner, hugging her knees. She looked up at him with eyes that showed no tears. She had decided not to cry anymore. "Someone is coming for you," Kane told her. "Two humans. They think they can save you." He laughed. "They will fail, and then I will make you watch as I kill them." Princess Lily said nothing, but in her heart, something stirred. Someone was coming for her. Someone she had never met was risking everything to bring her home. She did not know why. She did not understand. But for the first time since her capture, she allowed herself to hope far away. The Defiance flew through the darkness toward the dead zone. Inside, Jake Miller checked his weapons and prepared for war. He did not know what he would find at the pirate base. He did not know if he would survive. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was going to bring that little girl home, or he was going to die trying. The asteroid appeared on their sensors like a dark shadow against the empty void. It was huge, maybe 50 miles across, floating alone in the dead zone where no light reached. The pirate base was built inside it, hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Jake and Marcus studied the scans from the Defiance. The news was not good. "I count at least 200 heat signatures," Marcus said, pointing at the screen. "Maybe more. They have defense turrets on the surface. Patrol ships flying around the perimeter. This place is a fortress." Jake nodded slowly. He had expected something like this. Victor Kane was not stupid. He had survived for years by being careful. "What about entry points?" Jake asked. Marcus pulled up another scan. "There's a main hangar on the east side. That's where their ships dock. Heavy security. On the west side, there's an old mining tunnel. It looks abandoned. They probably don't use it anymore. That's our way in." Marcus looked at his friend. "Jake, even if we get inside, we'll be fighting through hundreds of pirates to reach the prison cells. The two of us can't." "We can," Jake said firmly. "We will." They waited until the patrol ships were on the far side of the asteroid. Then Marcus flew the Defiance low and fast, skimming the surface until they reached the old mining tunnel. The entrance was small, barely big enough for their ship. Marcus landed inside, in a cavern covered with dust and old equipment. "I'll stay with the ship," Marcus said. "Keep the engines warm. When you find the girl, call me. I'll pick you up at the main hangar." Jake checked his weapons one more time. He had a rifle, 2 pistols, several grenades, and a knife that had belonged to his father. He wore a light armor that would stop some bullets, but not all. It was not much, but it would have to be enough. "If I don't call in 3 hours," Jake said, "leave without me." "Not a chance," Marcus replied. Jake smiled briefly. Then he disappeared into the darkness of the tunnel. The tunnel led deep into the asteroid. Jake moved silently, keeping to the shadows. He had been trained for this kind of work: infiltration, stealth, killing without sound. The Marines had made him into a weapon, and now he used those skills for something good. He reached the end of the tunnel and found a door. It was old and rusted, but it opened when he pushed. Beyond it was a corridor lit with flickering lights. He could hear voices in the distance. Jake moved through the pirate base like a ghost. When he encountered guards, he dealt with them quickly and quietly. He hid the bodies where they would not be found. He kept moving forward, always forward, toward the prison cells. The base was a maze of corridors and rooms. Pirates walked everywhere, carrying weapons and laughing about their crimes. They talked about the money they would make from the healing crystals. They talked about selling Princess Lily if the ransom was not paid. Their words made Jake's blood burn with anger, but he controlled himself. He stayed focused. He had a mission. After an hour of creeping through the base, Jake found the prison section. It was guarded by a dozen pirates with heavy weapons. They stood in front of a thick metal door that led to the cells. Jake could not sneak past them. He would have to fight. He took a deep breath. Then he stepped out of the shadows and opened fire. The pirates were shocked. They had not expected an attack from inside their own base. Before they could react, half of them were already down. The others scrambled for cover, shooting wildly at the human warrior who had appeared from nowhere. Jake felt a bullet hit his shoulder. Pain exploded through his body, but he did not stop. He kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting. Another bullet grazed his leg. He stumbled, but stayed on his feet. In less than a minute, all the guards were dead. Jake leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Blood ran down his arm and soaked into his armor. The wound was bad, but not fatal. He had survived worse. He opened the prison door and stepped inside. The cells were small and dark. Most of them were empty. But in the last cell, at the end of the corridor, he saw her. Princess Lily sat on the floor with her back against the wall. Her silver skin was dirty, and her beautiful dress was torn. But her eyes were still bright, still strong. She looked up when she heard footsteps, and her mouth opened in surprise. "Who are you?" she whispered. Jake knelt in front of her cell and began working on the lock. "My name is Jake. I'm here to take you home." "Home?" Lily's voice trembled. "To my mother?" "Yes, to your mother." Tears began to fall down Lily's silver cheeks. She had been so brave for so long. She had not cried in front of the pirates, not once. But now, hearing that word, home, she could not hold back anymore. The lock clicked open. Jake swung the cell door wide and held out his hand. "Can you walk?" he asked. Lily nodded and took his hand. Her small fingers wrapped around his, holding tight. "Stay close to me," Jake said. "Don't let go, no matter what." They left the prison section together. But they had not gone far when alarms began to scream throughout the base. Red lights flashed on the walls. Voices shouted over the speakers. "Intruder alert! All personnel to combat stations." They had been discovered. Jake grabbed his communicator. "Marcus, I have the girl. Meet us at the main hangar." "On my way," Marcus replied. "But Jake, you've got half the base between you and the hangar." "I know." Jake looked down at Princess Lily. She was scared. He could see that. But she was not panicking. She was ready to do whatever it took to escape. "I won't lie to you," Jake said. "This is going to be dangerous. But I promise you, I will get you out of here. Do you trust me?" Lily looked into his eyes. She saw something there that she had never seen in her captors. She saw warmth. She saw determination. She saw a man who would die before he let harm come to her. "I trust you," she said. Jake lifted his rifle. Ahead of them, he could hear the footsteps of dozens of pirates running toward their location. Behind them, more were coming. They were surrounded, but Jake Miller had been surrounded before. He had faced impossible odds before, and he had always found a way. "Stay behind me," he told the princess. "And when I say run, you run." Then he walked forward to meet his enemies, and the real battle began. The corridor erupted in fire and chaos. Pirates came from every direction, their weapons blazing. Jake pushed Princess Lily behind a metal crate and stood in front of her, his rifle singing death. He moved with a speed that did not seem possible. His aim was perfect. Every shot found its target. Pirates fell one after another, but more kept coming. They poured out of doorways and around corners, desperate to stop the human who had invaded their home. Jake took another hit, this time in his side. The pain was terrible, like fire burning through his body. But he did not fall. He could not fall, not while the princess was counting on him. "Run," he shouted at Lily. "Down that hallway." "Go." She ran. Her small feet flew across the metal floor while Jake covered her escape. He walked backward, still firing, still fighting. Bodies piled up around him. The pirates could not believe what they were seeing. One human was destroying them. They reached another corridor, then another. Jake was bleeding badly now. His vision was starting to blur. But the hangar was close. He could see the doors ahead. "Almost there," he told Lily. "Just a little more." But then the doors opened, and Victor Kane stepped through. The pirate leader was a tall man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. He wore expensive armor and carried a golden pistol. Behind him stood 20 of his best fighters, all armed and ready. And in his hand, he held a device with a blinking red light. "Stop right there," Kane said calmly. "One more step, and I blow this entire section of the base. We all die together." Jake stopped. He was breathing hard, and blood dripped from his wounds onto the floor. Lily hid behind him, her hands gripping his torn armor. "Let the girl go," Jake said. His voice was steady despite the pain. "This is between you and me." Kane laughed. "Between you and me? You've killed 50 of my men. You've destroyed equipment worth millions. And you think I'll just let you walk away with my prize? She's not a prize. She's a child. She's worth a fortune in healing crystals. Or, if her mother refuses to pay, she's worth a fortune in the slave markets." Kane tilted his head, studying Jake with curiosity. "You know what I don't understand? Why do you care? You're a human. She's Velari. Her people look down on your kind. They think you're primitive. Why would you die for her?" Jake looked at Lily. She was staring up at him with her big, beautiful eyes. She was so young. She had her whole life ahead of her. She deserved to see her mother again. She deserved to grow up and become whoever she wanted to be. "Because it's right," Jake said simply. Kane shook his head. "Humans, you're all insane." "Maybe," Jake agreed. "But I'm the insane human who's going to take this girl home." He dropped his rifle. It clattered on the floor loudly in the sudden silence. Then he dropped his pistols. Then his knife. He stood there unarmed, his hands empty and raised. "What are you doing?" Kane asked, confused. "Making a trade," Jake said. "Take me instead. A live human soldier. You know what governments would pay for that. Scientists across the galaxy would give you anything to study a human. I'm worth more than any ransom." Lily grabbed his arm. "No, don't." Jake knelt down and looked into her eyes. "It's okay," he said gently. "Marcus is waiting at the hangar. He'll take you home to your mother. But what about you?" Jake smiled, even though it hurt. "I'll be fine. I always am." Tears streamed down Lily's face. She had known this human for less than an hour, but he had risked everything for her. He had bled for her. And now he was offering his life. Kane watched this exchange with interest. The human's offer was tempting. Very tempting. A live human specimen was indeed valuable. More valuable than one alien child. You would really trade yourself for her? Kane asked. You would give up your freedom, maybe your life, for a stranger? Without hesitation, Jake replied. Kane lowered the detonator slightly. He was thinking about it. He was actually considering the offer. That was his mistake. In that moment of distraction, Jake moved. He'd been a soldier for 20 years. He had been in hundreds of fights. He knew that victory often came not from strength, but from timing. He threw himself at Kane with every ounce of energy he had left. Kane tried to raise his pistol, but Jake was faster. They crashed to the ground together, struggling for the weapon. Shoot him! Kane screamed at his men. Shoot him now! But they could not. Their leader was in the way. If they fired, they might hit Kane. They hesitated, and that hesitation cost them. Jake slammed his fist into Kane's face once, twice, 3 times. The pirate leader's grip loosened on the detonator. Jake grabbed it and threw it away. Then he grabbed the golden pistol and pressed it against Kane's head. Tell your men to stand down, Jake said. Kane's face was bloody and his eyes were wild with rage. But he knew he had lost. Stand down, he growled at his fighters. Stand down. The pirates lowered their weapons slowly. Jake rose to his feet, keeping the pistol aimed at Kane. His body screamed with pain. He had lost so much blood. He could barely see straight. But it was almost over. Lily, he said, go to the hangar. Marcus is there. I won't leave you, she said. You have to. I'll be right behind you. Before Lily could argue, the doors behind them burst open. Marcus ran in with guns blazing. He had gotten tired of waiting. Jake, let's go. Everything happened fast after that. Marcus covered them while Jake and Lily ran for the Defiance. The pirates chased them, but they were too slow. Kane was screaming orders, but no one was listening. Everyone was too busy trying not to die. They reached the ship. Marcus flew them through the hangar doors and into the darkness of space. Behind them, the asteroid base grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Jake collapsed on the floor of the ship. His eyes were closing. He had given everything he had. Lily knelt beside him, her small hands pressing against his wounds. Don't die, she begged. Please don't die. Jake managed a weak smile. I told you, he whispered. I always survive. Then his eyes closed, and he knew nothing more. Marcus flew the Defiance toward Valari Prime as fast as the old ship could go. In the back, Princess Lily sat beside the unconscious human warrior, holding his hand and praying to every god she knew. She did not know if he would live. But she knew one thing for certain. This human had shown her what true courage looked like, and she would never forget it. The journey to Valari Prime took 3 days. For Jake Miller, those 3 days passed in darkness. He drifted between life and death, caught in dreams and memories. He saw his mother's face. He saw his father teaching him how to fish in a river on Earth. He saw his sister Emma, laughing and running through a field of flowers. He saw all the moments of his life, beautiful and painful, playing out like a movie behind his closed eyes. But always, there was something pulling him back. A small hand holding his. A soft voice telling him to keep fighting. A child's faith that he would not leave her. Princess Lily never left his side. She slept on the floor next to his bed. She talked to him even when he could not hear. She told him about her mother and her home. She told him about the gardens she loved to play in and the songs her people sang at night. She told him everything because she believed that somehow her words were keeping him alive. Marcus did what he could. He cleaned Jake's wounds and gave him medicine from the ship's small medical kit. But it was not enough. Jake needed real doctors. He needed proper care. All Marcus could do was fly faster and pray. On the 3rd day, Valari Prime appeared on the sensors. It was a beautiful world, covered with blue oceans and green forests. Crystal cities sparkled on the continents like jewels. It was a planet of peace and beauty, and it was waiting for its princess to come home. Marcus sent a message ahead. Queen Rose received it in her palace, and when she heard that her daughter was alive and coming home, she fell to her knees and wept with joy. The entire city gathered at the landing platform. Thousands of Valari stood in silence, watching the sky. They had all heard the story of the two humans who had done the impossible. They wanted to see these strange creatures with their own eyes. The Defiance descended through the clouds and landed gently on the platform. Its hull was scarred and burned. Smoke rose from its damaged engines. It looked like it had barely survived, because it had. The ramp lowered slowly. Marcus walked out first. He was exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and bandages on his arms. But he stood tall and proud. He was a human, and he wanted these aliens to remember the dot. Then came Jake. He was walking, but barely. His arm was wrapped in bandages. His chest was covered with patches where the medicine was trying to heal his wounds. He leaned on a crutch that Marcus had made from ship parts. Every step caused him pain. But he was walking, and holding his other hand was Princess Lily. The crowd gasped. The little princess looked different than when she had left. Her fancy dress was torn and dirty. Her hair was messy, but her eyes were bright, and her face held a smile that could light up the darkest night. Queen Rose pushed through the crowd. She ran toward the ship, forgetting all dignity and protocol. She was not a queen in that moment. She was just a mother who wanted her child. Lily saw her mother and let go of Jake's hand. She ran too, her small legs carrying her as fast as they could. They met in the middle of the platform and crashed into each other's arms. Queen Rose fell to her knees, holding her daughter so tight that it seemed she would never let go. Tears poured down her silver face. Her whole body shook with sobs. All the fear and grief and desperation of the past weeks came out in that moment. "My baby," she cried. "My precious baby. You're home. You're home. Mama," Lily sobbed into her mother's shoulder. "I missed you so much. I was so scared." "I know, my love. I know, but you're safe now. You're safe." The crowd watched in silence. Many of them were crying too. They had never seen their queen so emotional. They had never seen such a display of love and relief. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. After a long moment, Queen Rose looked up. Her eyes found Jake Miller, standing alone by the ship. He was watching the reunion with a peaceful expression on his face. Despite all his wounds, despite all his pain, he looked happy. Queen Rose stood up slowly, still holding Lily's hand. She walked toward Jake, and the crowd parted to let her pass. When she reached him, she stopped and looked into his eyes. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was soft and filled with wonder. "Why did you do this? You nearly died. You suffered so much. We are nothing to you. We are strangers from the other side of the galaxy. Why would you sacrifice everything for us?" Jake looked at the Queen, then at Princess Lily. He thought about how to answer. He thought about all the reasons he could give. But in the end, there was only one truth. "Because she's someone's little girl," he said. "That's reason enough." Queen Rose stared at him. In all her years of ruling, in all her dealings with species from across the universe, she had never heard words like these. She had never met anyone like this human. She did something that no Valari queen had done in 1,000 years. She bowed. She, the ruler of an empire, bowed deeply to a battered human warrior standing on a crutch. Then she rose and wrapped her arms around him. It was awkward because of his wounds, but she was gentle. She hugged him like he was family, because in that moment, he was. "The Valari will never forget what you have done," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "From this day forward, Humans will have no greater friends in the galaxy than us. This man has shown us the true meaning of courage and compassion." The crowd burst into cheers. Thousands of voices rose together, celebrating the human heroes who had brought their princess home. It was a sound that echoed across the city and into history. Lily tugged on Jake's hand. He looked down at her with a gentle smile. "Will you stay?" she asked. "Will you come visit me?" Jake knelt down, wincing at the pain. He looked into Lily's eyes, those beautiful eyes that had given him strength when he had none left. "Try and stop me, princess," he said. Lily laughed and hugged him. It was the first time she had laughed in weeks. That night, there was a celebration in the Crystal Palace. Music filled the air, and lights danced in the gardens. The Valari sang songs of gratitude and joy. Jake and Marcus were given rooms in the palace, and the best medical care in the Empire. Jake stood on a balcony, looking out at the beautiful world. His wounds were healing. His heart was at peace. He thought about his sister Emma, lost so long ago. He could not save her, but maybe, in some small way, saving Lily had helped heal that old wound. Marcus joined him on the balcony. "So what now?" Marcus asked. "The Queen offered us anything we want. Wealth, land, a place in her court." Jake shook his head. "You know, I don't care about that stuff." "I know. But what do we do now?" Jake looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other children were scared and alone. Other families were torn apart. The universe was full of pain and cruelty, but it was also full of people who could make a difference. "We keep going," Jake said. "We find the next person who needs help, and we help them." Marcus smiled. Same old Jake. They stood together in silence, two humans from a small planet far away. They were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced. But they had something that many others lacked. They had heart. And as long as humans like Jake Miller existed, the galaxy would never be without hope. Far below. In the gardens of the palace, Princess Lily walked with her mother. She was telling the Queen everything that had happened. She told her about Jake's bravery. She told her about how he had refused to give up, no matter how hurt he was. "He said I was reason enough," Lily said softly. "He didn't want money or rewards. He just wanted to help me because I needed help." Queen Rose held her daughter close. "That is what makes humans special, my love. That is why they will change the galaxy someday." Above them, the stars shone brightly. And somewhere in that vast darkness, the legend of the human warrior who saved the princess was being told. It would be told for generations. It would inspire others to be brave, to be kind, to be human in the best possible way. And tears would fall again and again when people heard the story. Not tears of sadness, but tears of hope, of gratitude, and of belief that goodness still existed in the universe. The tears that fell when the human warrior safely returned the princess to her mother.